We're gonna finish reading Gypsy Rose Blanchards My Time to Stand. We have 3 more chapters, and then what's gonna happen, just so you FYI, so anybody that's in the comments, anyone that's in the comments and is talking about it, refrain from talking about it right now, and we will come back. It doesn't matter if it's full term. So that's what we were talking about, is that's the huge debate on my profile right now, is basically if it was a NICU or it was a preemie, right? So preemies are classified as different things in different states. So it can be by weight, it can be by date born, it can be by just the way they're progressing, like they're not high tea with Brie, they're not breathing properly, they have jaundice, things like that. There's a lot of different things that development, there you go, underdeveloped, things like that. So a lot of things put you in preemie. Seeing that the baby was 6 pounds 5 ounces, in my state we go by weight, so anything under 5 pounds they automatically put in the NICU. So her baby in my state would not be a NICU baby. I know some states also go by weeks, like how many weeks early they are or late. So that's a factor too. But in any sense, I don't think the baby was born early. I think the baby was born either right on time or like a couple of days early. They are saying that she had a scheduled induction, which also tells me that she may have medical problems not associated with pregnancy, in my opinion, because they don't do that unless like you're having some kind of problems or you feel like you're in labor or something's not right and you're always there, things like that. So it's just really weird to me that if she did have an induction, but we'll talk about it later. Thank you. All right, so we are on chapter 20, guys, and this is 3 more chapters and we're done, I'm pretty sure. I just want to make sure though. I'm not going to go into about the authors or anything. I may do Melissa Moore's because I know a lot of people want to read her book, but yeah. So chapter 20, again, we have the French on here, and it says sour sweet. Aigre de? I don't know. I'm horrible at French. I had managed to be in prison for about 6 years without going to the hole. Drugs didn't get me there. Ken's passionate kiss didn't get me there, nor did bad behavior. Of a population of roughly 2,500 at Chillicothe, it's rare to meet a woman who hasn't been in segregation. I prided myself on being one of the few that was strategic. I found this interesting that she admitted that she's strategic, because unlike many inmates, I had something to lose, release. I was careful and hell-bent on letting nothing get in the way of my parole. I kept my head down and only hung around with my closest friends, Lori and Amelia. Getting involved in the business of rival groups was a surefire way to be charged with a new crime. That could add to your sentence. Hell no. If there was drama, I looked the other way. A fight, I'd slither out of the rec room. It was September 2021. I had a little over 2 years until my eligible parole date of December 2023, but I had been preparing for my upcoming meeting with the parole board in December 2021. In Missouri, inmates who have completed 85% of their sentence fulfill the mandatory minimum and meet with the parole board for the first time. Ryan and I, we'd patched up our differences, began to dream out loud about the fantasy of me getting paroled early. At worst, the 24 months gave us a timeline to slash pen marks through. Ryan described the apartments he was scoping out for us. Those phone calls discussing my wish list for a home made my days pass more quickly and easily. The last time I had made such a wish list was for Habitat for Humanity. It was for a playhouse, a ramp, and a hot tub. My mother was the one who had the idea to paint it her favorite color. Pink. My taste grew up as I did. Now, instead of a life-size Barbie dream house, I wanted granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, and hardwood floors and high ceilings. And I definitely needed a patio or a terrace, somewhere I could go to get some sun and breathe fresh air whenever I pleased. That would be the best part of freedom, to be in nature. One morning at around 10 a.m., I was in pajamas having my morning coffee, watching the Food Network, when a CO, corrections officer, appeared in the doorway. "Miss Blanchard, I need you to come with me." "Okay," I said, frowning my brows. I was really nervous as I followed him down the rotunda where another guard stood. Is he waiting for me? The CO said nothing. He simply presented me to the guard, handed me over, and walked away. What? Wait, is this a joke? What am I in trouble for? What did I do? I spun my head around as if the answers could be found in the air around me. "I don't know," said the guard, "but I got to put the handcuffs on you." His demeanor was neutral as he took me His demeanor was natural as he took me by the arm and walked me outside the housing unit and into a holding cell where there was another inmate sleeping. I spotted an intercom and buzzed it. Unclear of whom I answered. "Yes," said the voice. "Excuse me, why am I downstairs?" "You're under investigation," the voice said. "For what?" I asked, my face burning. "We don't know." Nobody knew anything, yet I was held there for 3 days, until I had a committee hearing to determine my penalty for my mystery infraction. "Do you know why you're under investigation?" the sergeant asked during the hearing. The last time somebody asked me that question, I was in a sheriff's office in Wisconsin. This time I was telling the whole truth. "No, not at all," I said, wiping the sweat from my palms. "Well, we don't either," he said. An ominous feeling came over me. I knew this feeling. It was the same feeling I had when my mother wheeled me against my will to the shed. I didn't know why I was in trouble. There was no reasoning with anyone. I'm not in control. "What's happening? What's going to happen now?" I cried. "You've been assigned to segregation." "The hole?" I wanted to jump out of my chair and run. What in the holy fuck? What did I even do? Being escorted to the hole felt like a final procession. Other inmates who were walking around camp had to stop walking, turn their backs to me as I walked behind the CO. They would remain frozen like that until we passed through. My tears streamed down my khaki uniform, turning it dark brown. The color of the dirt turning dark brown, the color of the dirt, as I moved slowly toward what I felt like my final resting place. I was being buried alive, and the grave diggers had no idea why. How will Ryan and my parents know where I am? For sure, they'll be worried when they don't hear from me. Gossip travels like wildfire in prison, but a story about the hole travels at lightning speed. My friend Lori was told by another inmate that I was taken down. She called Ryan and told him what happened. Without explanation, everyone's imagination went wild. Was Gypsy in the hole because of one of Ryan's visits? Did they kiss or touch too intimately? Could she have gone back to drugs? Did another inmate make up a story to fuck with her? Ryan called the prison, but they wouldn't tell him anything either. Finally, I was informed that I was put in the hole because they were investigating me for a potential plan to escape prison. My parole hearing is in a few months, and I've already done a majority of my time, I said. I would never do that. I'm not fucking crazy, y'all. Are you sure, Gypsy? Being in the hole for a solid 2 weeks was the same as being kidnapped. I had no access to time or people. I sat there in the dark, not knowing my fate or how long the punishment would be. I was defenseless, in the dark, literally and figuratively. Okay, so look at it this way. She's saying that she was like, it was 2 weeks in the hole is like she being kidnapped. Well, 1 year in prison. So there's a thing there, right? 2, you literally just said you were making all these plans on getting out before you even went to your parole hearing. So obviously a jail is going to be like, red flag, why is she making all these plans and she hasn't even been to a hearing yet? Like, that's sus. Like, if I was a prison official, I would look at that and be like, This girl about to jump ship. And you don't know, like, people do things irrationally every day. She's insinuating, like, these people should have known that she wasn't gonna escape because she's so close to leaving. You know what I mean? Like, that's asinine. There was nonstop noise in the hole. Screaming was incessant. There was a woman next to me who screamed all hours of the night. Shrill noises I couldn't shake from my ears. Banging and arguing echoed throughout the day and night. I was being assassinated by sound of desperation. To keep myself sane, I envisioned the apartment Ryan was hunting for us. Maybe the bathroom will have a dressing table to put makeup on and do my hair. I should add that to my wish list. I prayed to God a lot. God, give me the strength to survive this. Please don't let this affect my parole. I put all my faith in God that he had gotten me this far. I thanked him for sending me his blessings when the courts showed me mercy. I don't want to be greedy, God, but please, can you send me another blessing? In the hole, I could only take 5-minute showers twice a week, and it's a cage shower, so you're standing under the sprinkler naked in front of a female guards. When you go into the cage shower, there is a cubby hole for you to put your hands through, like the ones in Western movies, so guards can uncuff you from the other side. There was a toilet in the cell, so I had to do my business out in the open. The goal is to take away your dignity. Mine was flushed on day 1. It is prison. Just FYI. For 2 weeks, I was reminded that I had no rights. Someone wrote on social media something like, she doesn't belong in prison. I wish I could bust her out. An unknown source reported to the person to up the post to the prison, and that was it. Authorities went through my stuff looking for writings or plans or any correspondence that indicated I knew the person who wrote the troublemaking post, which I didn't. So again, she had this experience of social media and still went through with doing social media. So she's claiming that somebody had wrote online, she doesn't belong in prison, I wish I could bust her out, and that's why they investigated her. But I don't think that's why. I really think it's because she was planning all this stuff with Ryan, and they heard it, and they're like, this is weird. Like, this is strange. And I'm sure they were writing it in letters, too. So, this just, like, blames social media. Like, it's putting the blame, it's already planting that seed and putting the blame on social media. Again, that's just my opinion, you know. Letting me out of the hole came with as much explanation as going in. Poof, suddenly I could go back. An inmate who rejoins population after segregation looks markedly different, withered like a prison of war failed to assimilate to their regular life. Nothing is regular again after hole time. I still have nightmares. In one dream, they put me in a hole for being Wiccan. In the other, male guards put me in the hole for not stripping for them on demand. In another dream, I'm in a cell in the hole, and Ryan is in an adjacent cell, and we whisper to each other through the vents. That's a nightmare. Upon returning to population, I did my best to resume my normal routine. My parole hearing was still set for December 9th, but I was freaking out for 2 months straight that my time in the hole would tarnish my parole eligibility in December of 2023. Why are you so scared of that tarnishing it if you were such an excellent inmate before? Like, I don't know. Around 9 in the morning on the day of the hearing, Christy met me in the visitation room where we sat with Deputy Warden Amy Parkhurst and video conferenced in 2 other members of the parole board. I had asked Christy to be my delegate to speak on my behalf. That was your first mistake. One of the men on the screen asked me questions, none of which were about the crime itself. They were interested in hearing from me personally about my upbringing and relationship with my mother. I told him a little about the abuse. He asked me where I had met Nick. He said he was not familiar with my case, at least the details of it, so I explained our story. Now, isn't that weird that a parole board wouldn't be familiar with the case? Like, don't you have to be familiar with the case? you know, like, don't you, in order to parole a person, don't you have to know why they're in there, the crimes they've done, and the implication they might have being out of prison? I would think that, you know, it'd be logical. Then he wanted to hear about the programs I participated in and completed while at Chillicothe. I showed my certificate and also my GED. I remember him saying he was proud of me. He even complimented me on only having 13 minor infractions, which are just write-ups. Have you had any mental health treatment while you have been here? Deputy Warden Parkhurst asked. No, ma'am. I tried, but did not qualify. Deputy Warden Parkhurst validated the trauma I endured, and she encouraged me to seek therapy upon my release. Christy jumped in enthusiastically, saying she has loving parents and siblings, and we will all get her the support she needs. Heck, we'll all go into therapy. Are you in therapy, Christy? Is Gypsy in therapy by herself? Yeah, thought so. Deputy Warden Parkhurst explained that it takes the board up to 4 weeks' time to make their decision. That was a Thursday. By the following Monday, I was called to the office of the institutional parole officer to give me my letter in person. I stood before her, took a deep breath, held it in, and opened the seal. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, release date December 28, 2023. It's weird they booked her under Blanchard with an E. That's kind of sus. Or I don't know if maybe she just put this. I don't know. Being granted early parole, I felt like a pregnant woman waiting out the first trimester to share her news. Believe me, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I'm being released on December 28, 2023, y'all. But there was too much at stake. People in prison get jealous of short timers. She wasn't a very short timer. She was in there for about 7 years, so... They'd call my sentence baby time. Sometimes they'd even retaliate and try to get you in trouble to jeopardize parole. After going to the hole for no reason at all, I couldn't risk anyone finding out. I started eating alone, keeping to myself. I think some people suspected something was up because I'm a chatterbox by nature. We also wanted to keep the media from finding out I was getting released 2 years early. After the act, there was a lot of gossip. I didn't want haters to dampen the hope I had in my heart. Okay. Nobody hates you. That's the biggest thing is like, there's very few people that hate you. Now, if you actually looked into it, it's not that they're haters, it's just that they're actually concerned, right? Actually concerned. That's short time. Anything 10 years and more is not short time. Okay. I've never been in prison, so just, I don't think that's a short time. I feel like that's a long time to be in prison. Just saying. Ryan moved into our apartment before we decorated it. Ryan moved into our apartment before me, decorating it with fleur-de-lis pillows and wall art. The symbol of New Orleans, the fleur-de-lis was my mother's go-to accessory around the house and in our front yard. There'll be no beige anywhere, Ryan said, assuring me our color scheme would be bright and happy with gold accents everywhere. You've seen enough beige for a lifetime. So that kind of questions for me too, is that part of the reason that she kind of, I don't want to say disliked Ryan, but is that part of the reason that she just couldn't do the whole living with Ryan situation? Is because not only did he look like her mom, because come on, y'all, we all know she did, but also he decorated like her and did things like her and all of that stuff. So I think that was a catalyst. And if she could have just said that, that would have changed a lot of things. Again, my opinion. He told me he tested out the kitchen making gumbo. He joked that rivaled my dad's. I could smell the Cajun seasoning. I could see Ryan in a silly apron that said something like, I don't need Google, I have Gypsy. Maybe we'd even get a dog. Yeah. I was letting myself go to the places in my imagination that I had been afraid to go. I was no longer afraid to let myself hope or trust. I thought we were skiing downhill with the wind at our backs. Our monthly countdown whittled to weeks, and the X's I penned on the calendar felt like kisses. My dad and Christy and Ryan planned the logistics of my release date. I, on the other hand, was focused on what really mattered. What will I wear? I wanted to look pretty for Ryan, but I had never planned an outfit before. Either my mother dressed me or I wore khaki uniform. It was a lot of fun asking my sister Mia what was trendy. I had to guess my jean size, and Ryan went out and shopped for me. I still giggle at how lost he must have looked roaming around the women's department, trying to tell the difference between skinny jeans and high-rise and boot cut. I'm pretty sure he went back to exchange them 3 times. The real challenge was the shoes. He needed to pick out just the right pair, but also guess my shoe size. Ryan would then mail my ensemble and shoes in a dress-out box with my name on it, which I would change into the morning of my release. So here we're still talking about, we don't know our shoe size, we don't know our jean size. Like, I digress. I had an actual date, December 28th, 2023. I said it over and over again, never getting sick of the sound. Someone just pinch me, please. While the joke was on me, one day in August, about 4 months before my release, I was in canteen when a bunch of inmates approached me. We know you got parole. I tried to play dumb, but you can't out-scam a bunch of scam artists. Really? Interesting. If that ain't the, what do you say? If that ain't the the pot calling the kettle black or whatever. Blindsided and angry, I called Dad and Christy. We had managed to keep it under wraps for almost a year until someone leaked this story to In Touch Weekly. It was, we think, someone Christy had told in confidence. And it was a hard lesson and a warning about what we needed to do when I was released. Keep our circle small. Didn't do that. That was going to be hard. I was trying to do 2 things at once, embrace my public platform and maintain an inner circle that I was 100% certain wouldn't screw me or the rest of my beloved family. Could these 2 things happen simultaneously? No. Yes, but not without making a lot of mistakes along the way. I tried to put the negativity of the snitch out of my mind. Finally, my future was the near future. One more holiday season to cycle through and I'd be with Ryan on New Year's Eve. What would we do? How would we celebrate the beginning of 2024? Well, it felt like a tease to be released just 3 days after Christmas. Having the week between Christmas and New Year's to celebrate my freedom worked out for friends and family who wanted to travel to Missouri to be with me. They were planning a big old belated Christmas for me, something I never had before, with presents and foods and lots of laughter and love. Oh, and one small Lifetime channel camera crew. One small Lifetime channel camera crew. And that's where you made your mistake. Christy went into her usual take charge mode, looking for a rental house in Overland Park, Kansas, just over the Missouri line. That would fit all of us. Her hands cramped from wrapping so many presents, and she and Mia were my personal shoppers because I wanted to have gifts for everyone too. Christy and Mia bought confetti, party decorations, and baked a buttercream frosted sheet cake, complete with rainbow sparkles and candles that spelled out celebrate. When Ryan told me that Kansas City Chiefs were playing the New Orleans Saints on New Year's Eve, I was psyched. This was a sign. The 2 cities I had grown up in playing on such a special night. It wasn't just a sign, it was symbolic. My dad bought us tickets for seats in the 6th row. So, I was trying to look up this game, and I know somebody was saying that they were actually not playing. It was the Kansas City Chiefs playing like the Bengals or something. But I couldn't find it anywhere. Also, I have heard her dad didn't buy the tickets. It was actually Lifetime that bought the tickets for them. Just a little tidbit there for y'all. Ryan ordered me a bunch of Chief swag, including pom-pom ski hat, while he coordinated his own over-the-top Saints garb. The plan was to have our first New Year's kiss at Arrowhead Stadium. What better way to spend the new year than to ring in a new life? Wow. Wow. We're just gonna move on, guys. So chapter 21, Libre, released. Don't know if I said that right. Again, I'm sorry. This Cajun French is a little funky to me. And I Google translated some of it, so. 3 days away from my release date, I spent Christmas Day crying. When I wasn't crying, I slept the day away. When I wasn't sleeping, I paced. Time felt like a straitjacket. I purposely didn't speak to Ryan or Dad and Christy on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It felt intrusive to call. Dad and Christy's house at Christmas time is usually busting at the seams. Okay, and how do we know? How do we know that? You claim you never went to your Dad and Christy's house for Christmas. Ryan was with his own family. Something inside me told me to let them enjoy their traditions the way they used to without me. In just a few days, everyone's lives would be forever altered. I felt this was especially true for my brother and sister. I wanted to be sensitive to their feelings. They'd had our parents to themselves all their lives, and here comes the long-lost daughter. I imagined them at the dinner table thinking how it's the last time Christmas will be exactly this way. Were they happy or sad about that? If they were sad, I don't blame them. Change, even good change, can be sad. I think that's why I felt so down those last days. My life also would be changing. The only friends I ever had were at Chillicothe. The only job I worked was there too. The only education I received was within those walls when I arrived at Chillicothe. I felt freer than I ever had. Although I had outgrown the version of freedom, it was still bittersweet to leave it behind. December 28th, 2023. Typically, when inmates are released, they change into clothes given to them in their dress-out box. Some people file into a bus and take them to the bus station. Others are picked up by someone they know. I was the exception to the rule, since the news of my parole broke, along with the announcements of a docu-series Lifetime was filming. The media's interest in my release was intense. The only reason the parole release was intense was because Lifetime wanted it to be intense. And that's where, again, that was your first mistake. Lifetime was filming. The media's interest in my... This concerned the authorities at Chillicothe. Nobody wanted a scene. Ryan was going to pick me up, but he didn't know what time I'd be released until the prison called him. The secretiveness surrounding my discharge made it feel like a prison break, except with the help of the prison. The Lifetime crew and Ryan were staying minutes up the road, waiting for the call, telling them they could head over. GoPros were placed inside Ryan's car, a blatant reminder that mine was no ordinary release. Yeah, because you chose to have a film crew film you. It could have been very normal. Hands shaking, I changed into my blue jeans and blue and white long sleeve shirt, savoring the moment I had been praying for. I was so excited to put my black platform heeled boots on, but they wouldn't zip up past my ankles. My white socks would have to do. So, you guys remember when she got released, she got these platform boots that were like, literally like, they would go over her, like to her knee, right? Why in God's green earth would you pick that? One, you've never walked in heels, but these are platform heeled boots. You picked that. One, and two, obviously boots don't fit everybody the same, especially if they have to go over your calf. And three, honestly, I'd want to put on a nice pair of tennies when I get out. Like, don't you just want something basic? Like, you were trying to be extra. Ryan got the call at 2:30 a.m. to pick me up within 45 minutes. He headed to the prison, followed by the film crew. Once they reached the perimeter, police barricaded the area and told the crew to leave. The biting winter air felt exhilarating as I was escorted from the back of the prison to the passenger side of Ryan's car. I thought about the last time I was outside in the middle of the night to feel how low Missouri's temperatures can dip. I had forgotten what night air smelled like. The car door shut, and just like that, I was alone with my husband in a warm car. There wasn't even time for a proper kiss. Ryan just pulled away as I buckled my seatbelt for the most surreal ride of my life. I thought he was going so fast. I had forgotten the sensation of moving in a car. I was afraid I'd get sick. I marveled at the iPhone Ryan handed to me like a cave woman who traded in her sticks and rocks for flashing, vibrating, beeping heap of plastic. It's always so weird to me because like even though technology has changed a lot, it's the thing where like you still had access to information and you still had a phone when you were out of prison. It's not like it is new in a sense where yes, it's newer than what you experienced, but you've experienced it before. Just saying. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in a week. The heat from the vents lulled me, and I felt instantly exhausted, but fought off sleep until I became hyper on the short ride. I would have put toothpicks under my eyelids to not miss a beat of this moment. Ryan and I went back to the hotel where we had reserved a suite for our very first night together. From what we could tell, we hadn't been followed by paparazzi. We made it inside, got into our room, and gave each other a long embrace, something we could not do in the visitor's room. We were able to doze off only to awake to a parking lot full of news vans. My white socks were turning brown underneath from exposure. I couldn't go the rest of the day shoeless. We had about an hour and a half drive from Chillicothe to where my family was waiting for me at an Airbnb. As much as I couldn't wait to see them, I couldn't wait until another minute to get something on my feet. So we made a pit stop at a shoe store where I'd have my first interaction with media. Gypsy, one reporter said as Ryan and I left the shoe warehouse. What did you buy? Shoes, I said. Gypsy, do you have plans? Lots of them, I said, while thinking, what is this man following me for? Like you don't know. While we drove, I leaned my head against the glass, watching Ryan trying to lose the paparazzi following him. We feared they'd follow us to the Airbnb, and then Ryan's phone rang. The conditions of my parole were a bit wonky. Usually you're not allowed to leave the state and most regularly report to your parole officer. Since I was married to a man from Louisiana and my entire support system was also there, we had to get special approval for me to leave Missouri. This meant that until I got to Louisiana on New Year's Day, I was under the jurisdiction of the Missouri Department of Corrections, after which I would be transferred from having a Missouri parole officer, PO, to one in Louisiana. Now, ain't that just some stuff? Ain't that just some, like, oh, I married a man in Louisiana, where all my family lives. It's wild. Why you pick Ryan, you know? Why you pick Ryan? I was supposed to spend 4 days with my family at the Airbnb. People had driven from all over the country to greet me and celebrate. All over the country. Most of your family lives in Louisiana, so... It was to be a bonding period and also a regrouping, when I would then go to the football game and head home to our apartment the next day. You know what they say about making plans? Ryan's caller ID was explicit. It was my parole officer calling. He had terrible news. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office, which oversees Kansas City, wanted her out of the state immediately. Wait, what? We had the whole week pre-approved. We'd been planning this for months. What about the party? My family who took off from work. You have until 3 o'clock to leave. But it's already 1, Ryan said. The rest of the ride was not joyful. Instead of walking triumphantly in to greet my family, I was on the verge of hyperventilating. Mike Stamfield received me with open arms, my defender even now, and firmly said, "Tell me what they said." Panic and paranoia pumped through my body. I was inconsolable. I felt trapped, claustrophobic. I excused myself and went to a quiet place. My senses were overloaded. I had never been around this many people. I kept looking at the clock, thinking I had to be somewhere. I realized my body was waiting for count time. All the ruckus and confusion felt like a virus. The PO then blindsided us with more bad news. Once I left Missouri, the transfer of authority to Louisiana couldn't happen until the offices reopen on January 3rd. She needs to be on lockdown in her apartment until she sees her PO in Louisiana, the PO said. That's 7 days, I cried. What about going to my mother's house for dinner? She's been planning, Ryan asked, as if the PO wasn't in a bargaining mood. Absolutely nowhere. She cannot leave the house for any reason at all, except to meet her parole officer. In total lawyer mode, Mike dialed my PO from his phone while I waited in purgatory for others to slap down a verdict on my life. This time, I hadn't done anything wrong. Gypsy will never be free. I let self-pity take over. You stupid idiot. You thought you'd just get out, be married, open presents, and eat cake. Gorge yourself on dad's gumbo and have sisterly sleepover with Mia. Ring in the new year and new life. Fucking moron. Dumb, so dumb. It was as if Chillicothe had let me out only to boomerang me back. Freedom was an illusion. My decision on how to spend my holidays were not mine. A dose of humility and reality knocked me over. I was back to not speaking for myself. Other people were speaking on my behalf, referring to me as she and her. Did I even matter? You should be lucky that people are trying to figure this out for you and you're just sitting here having all of these negative thoughts. Some people don't have that. While my Flirty Plus guest had conversations about what Mike was accomplishing on the phone, I was catapulted back to volunteer way. I was confined to a wheelchair. I was back in the closet at Daddy Claude's. In the alleyway with my mother, tied to the bedpost, running away and dragged back. The Airbnb was the shed. It was the scalpel that traced my throat. It was the hole. So dramatic. I just wanted out. I'm sorry. I'll be good. The sheriff's office explained to Mike that I posted a security risk. This made me feel shameful, aware of what people really thought of me. I was an imposter in a world that thinks I am a monster. It was a foreshadowing of public opinion, and I was not in the least ready for it. Mike, though, worked his magic. The PO agreed to let me have until noon the next day to drive home. I didn't have to leave Missouri that instant. I could at least spend some time with those who love me, watch my dad open the present I bought him, and get a good night's sleep. The next day, it was back to lockdown. So they posed her a threat. I just want to go over this with you guys. The only reason the parole boards posed her as a threat and wanted her out of the state was because of the attention that Lifetime was bringing to the state. There was way too much attention on them, so they wanted her to leave immediately because it was just too much for them, and rightfully so. So again, when I say her first mistake was to let Lifetime film her, that literally was her very, very first mistake in coming out of prison. Because if Lifetime wasn't filming her, she would have been able to go to that game. If Lifetime didn't purchase those gifts, and if her dad really did, or those tickets, she would have been more open. There wouldn't have been things like that happening to her. So at the end of the day, she did that to herself. And again, you have people enabling her and figuring things out for her when honestly, that's her responsibility. It's her parole. Chapter 22, Joy of Living. I'd been here before. I don't mean in a car with a husband on a 13-hour road trip. I had been detained and contained before. Nothing that I experienced in my entire life made any sense. Like my mother's abuse, the doctor's negligence, suicide watch, and the whole, the explanation for my rapid departure from Kansas City was vague. A security risk. Getting in the car with Ryan the next morning, per our orders, I felt like an explanation mattered. Well, the explanation was because you were causing a ruckus in their town and they wanted you out because you needed to be in Louisiana. It wasn't this, oh, let's party here and let's party here and let's party here game. No. We loaded the car with the gifts we received the night before. Opening presents in front of my friends and family felt like a bridal shower because I was being showered with ordinary things. I needed to start a life outside of prison, a plush lilac robe to match our lavender bathroom, a snow white down puffer jacket, my first perfume a la Mia, 12 days of masking for when I have a good spoil myself day, and a set of makeup brushes. I was so used to using paintbrushes to put on makeup that having a pretty set was like the epitome of luxury. When I opened a pair of chocolate brown knee-high boots, I was so excited. I had to try them on right away, especially since my shoe size 6 by the way, was in question. Hooker boots, my dad called them. Kidding, but not kidding. As the room laughed, I said how I felt awkward about being the center of attention, especially during the holidays. Then Christy said unapologetically, "This Christmas is all about you, baby girl." And this Christmas was all about her baby girl. But you know what's funny is that why did she pick the chocolate brown knee-high boots to try on? And why did she put that in here and not the Louboutins? Because since the Louboutins, that whole thing with her like saying Louis Vuitton and all of this stuff was so weird, why did she choose this? Because she was more excited for those Louboutins. But I digress. The unwrapping continued. A flat iron, bath bombs for my first bath in forever, a cookbook, a 3-piece luggage set for my New York trip Ryan and I would be taking in January, and Mickey Mouse stemless wine glass for my first sip. I bought Ryan a new chain with a cross on it, and he stunned me with his mother's ring and she had given him years before to give to his future wife. That was me, someone's wife in a car on a road trip to home. I'd been thinking about home a lot ever since my parole was granted, when home became less an idea and more a tangible thing that belonged to me. The week prior to my release, I had to attend a mandatory seminar with all the other women who were also getting out on the same day. We were informed of logistics first. Anyone who didn't have someone coming to pick them up had to board a bus, which would take them to the depot. After that, they'd be on their own. It became clear to me how many of the women in the room were meeting nobody. They were the majority from what I could tell. So remember back in like a chapter ago, she was saying that like people found out she was paroled. Well, what if people found out not because of the outside, but because she went to this, she says, a week prior to her release, she attended a mandatory seminar. That's plausible. You know what I mean? Just spinning things a little bit different than they actually happened, you know? We were given information about the condition of parole, beginning with, be sure to report to your parole officer. Mine was going to be out of state, so along with having a husband to pick me up, this also made me realize how unique and frankly lucky my situation was. There was talk about job search strategies, determining skills, and finding residences. Somewhere about halfway through our road trip, I remembered these women, my fellow released. I wondered where they all were on day 2. Looking out the window, I counted my blessings. I had a safe and clean place to go to, a family and support system beyond belief, and a purpose to occupy my days, including writing this book. I even had a therapist waiting. My future had more of a chance than that of many of the women sitting in the bus depot back in Missouri. Suddenly, an explanation for kicking me out of Kansas didn't matter. It did not matter at all. It never mattered. What mattered was that God had decided I needed to go home. Now, not next week. Every time something terrible happened or I was blindsided, disappointed, or disregarded, something good always came from it. I had to remember to just trust that I was where I was supposed to be in that very moment. Maybe I wouldn't know why, but soon enough, when I was ready, I would. That philosophy carries me through to this day, even after so much has happened since my release. I feel like her saying basically that when she feels horrible, something's good's gonna come after it. And I don't think that that's a good way to think about it. But I do think that this came from a therapist. Like, every time you felt this way, what has happened? And she put it in her own words. Again, just my opinion. We got home in the wee hours of December 30th and crashed. I felt terrible that I couldn't share in the driving, but I did try to be an entertaining co-pilot, messing with my iPhone, pressing buttons, and experimenting with sounds and displays. Lounging around our new house was exactly what I needed. I toured the apartment, and it was just as Ryan had described it to me. I had coffee on the terrace. I couldn't have it planned more pleasant weather. The fact that I could step outside anytime I wanted and let the mild Louisiana winter breeze through my hair made me giddy. I kept going back outside just to step outside again because I could. Don't get me wrong, it was surreal. I felt like I was walking around in Bizarro World, especially when I learned to do my very first video post on TikTok. It was viral, receiving a majority of supportive comments. From then on, I'd be following a technical and emotional learning curve. Turns out that when it comes to tech, I was a bit thick-headed. When it came to public opinion, I was a little thin-skinned. We had no plans for New Year's Eve. My dad and Christy almost seemed enthusiastic that I had to forego the original plan to spend New Year's Eve at the Chiefs Saints game. On a brief check-in visit after I got home, Dad said, "Why don't we come over to your apartment? We'll cook, put on some music, just chill, you know? Just hang out together, just us." Christy stood nodding and smiling as if a special private wish she had was being granted. Dad's baby blues glimmered like this was the best idea ever. It was. God didn't want me ringing in New Year's Eve, New Year, and a new life with 70,000 strangers. He wanted me back where he always intended me to be, home. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate it. My mother had taken me out of Louisiana almost 20 years before. The explanations are vague, mere guesses. She had taken me from my father and family and replaced the void in my heart with lies and hurt. She had taken me away from my Cajun culture, far away from what made me, me. She had taken so much from me. I had taken so much from her. But here I was, back where it all began, the bayou. That day, Dad and Christy rushed through the front door, carrying bags and bags of groceries. It was the kind of intrusion only close family has the right to do, and I loved it. It was the beginning of my first holiday with family, and despite it being just the four of us, it started out busy and noisy, the way I always imagined a family spending time together. We cooked, bantered, turned on the Saints game, then we had a dance party in the kitchen. I never had so much fun. There were no black plastic bags on the windows blocking out the dancing in the street. There were only the smells of spice and the sound of sweet laughter, and the smooth touch of my dad's hand as he asked me to dance. I'm sorry, but that line right there, the smooth touch of my dad's hand as he asked me to dance. I don't know, this whole book, she's sexualized her dad, and it's kind of disturbing. In the small kitchen of my newlywed apartment, I had my first father-daughter dance. My dad and I swayed to Tim McGraw's My Little Girl. He twirled me, he dipped me, he hugged me close. I closed my eyes and opened them again to make sure it was all real. The dream of a happy family I had while I was locked in the shed was not a dream at all. It was a premonition. I realized then that I had not been released. I had been returned. Okay. I'm going to also read the epilogue, A Day of Balance, because it goes over a little bit of what's happening now, so I'm going to read that as well. Today marks 9-year anniversary of the murder of my mother, Claudine Dee Blanchard. It is the first time I commemorate. It's the first time I'm sorry, it's like split, so my brain was like, what? It's the first time I commemorate that solemn day outside of prison walls. This year, I remembered the events of the early morning as a free woman. For each of the past 8 years, on every June 10th, I experienced my grief and guilt the same way. With the wave of darkness hovering over me, a shadowy reminder that I would never again have a mother. I would try to connect with her wherever she is, hopefully heaven. Usually with my head under the blanket, hiding from the world, I prayed and spoke to her out loud. I squeezed my eyes tight and concentrated, hoping to make connection just one more time, so I could tell her how much I missed her and that I was sorry. Year after year, no matter how hard I tried, I never felt her presence in the way many people say they do after their loved ones pass away. Well, you didn't feel her presence because you killed her. It was a tragic death. So she's not gonna come back to you after a tragic death. So this is the one part I want you guys to pay attention to, okay? But this June 10th is different. On June 10th, I myself am a mother-to-be. I am pregnant. I have filed for divorce from Ryan Anderson, and I got back together with my first fiancé, Ken. He's moved to New Orleans full-time as we gear up to welcome our baby in January of 2025. When the OBGYN's office called to schedule my first sonogram where Ken and I would see our baby for the first time and hear the precious heartbeat, they suggested to do it on Monday, June 10th. I do not think this is a coincidence, whether it's a message, a sign, or the balance of the universe, or all three. That had been a date defined by scandal and horror and sadness. Beyond comprehension has now become a day of excitement, joy, and celebration of life itself. With one phone call and a calendar appointment, a day of darkness has been transformed into a day of light. The shadowy wave is no longer hovering over me. I am able to right it. I believe God rights wrongs. I believe in balance. I believe in balance, but to have the perspective that your mom dying and you having a baby is righting a wrong for you is wildly astounding to make that assumption. Regardless of everything that my mother and I went through with each other, what I did to her, what she did to me, I'm now carrying her grandchild. Later today, when I see my baby on the doctor's monitor, I will wish that my mom was here for this. Maybe this means she is. June 10th no longer has to mark an ending but a beginning. On future June 10th, I will continue to remember the sadness of the last moments with my mother, but now it will also be the day I experienced the miracle, my first moments with my baby. I like to think that my mother is telling me that she wants to move on with my life, that she forgives me, and what I will do on that anniversary is her way of helping me change the way I think of myself every June 10th. Maybe now with the freedom, we can both be released from our purgatories. Maybe now she can be free too. She always said we were two sides of the same penny. Those words that used to haunt me, Gypsy will never be happy, she will never be free, have been once and for all put to rest. Nothing will never ever erase the fact that I helped take life, but all the same, nothing will mar my joy at the incredible good fortune that I am now helping give life. Thank you so much for the gifts. I appreciate it. Balance is a beautiful force of nature. As I write this, I am about at a halfway mark of my year of release from Chillicothe Correctional Center. Perfect timing to notice how balance in my life regulating the chaos that once was. 6 months have gone by so quickly have gone by as quickly as a football season, and I can say with full confidence that despite what you might have seen or read about me, I've managed to hold on to the ball more than I fumbled it. Keep telling yourself that. In just 6 months, I've publicly gone from newlywed to divorcee, from Missourian to Louisianian, from brunette to blonde, from inmate to reality star. You're not a reality star. From uneducated to published author twice. Y'all, in the past 6 months, I've also managed to make a lifetime of mistakes, be called a gazillion names, and sneak in some necessary smart decisions. I've misused social media, given too much credence to critics and haters, and have gone and said things I regret. I was free for the first time, playing catch up with technology, current events, even lingo. So like a fawn lifting herself up on wobbly legs, it took me a minute to find my footing. Initially, even though I was no longer behind prison walls of barbed wire, I still found sense of being trapped by my negative image because of what I'm notorious for. It's been a constant struggle trying to break free from the title that was put on me, especially while trying to balance who I really am in the world I had never lived in. Not for one day, it took 6 months to discover that I can't please everyone, so I stopped. It's much better to be myself than to try to conform to what everybody wants me to be. Okay. I feel like people keep trying to put me in a box of either victim or murderer, but I'm not a hero. I'm not the villain either. I don't think that there is any villain in this story. After you learn more of my mother's backstory and read about her childhood and the molestation and abuse that she endured, you see she didn't have much of a start in life either. Life isn't black and white. It's not victim or perpetrator. My mom was both. I am both. Balance makes us human. I mean, if your mom would have did the same thing to her mom, it would just be a line of things that you did. So you would then take that into account of what was happening as well, right? But there's no way of getting back to like, or creating an image that puts you in a sense where you are somebody that is notable in a following. You squandered that away when you signed that contract with Lifetime. Again, Lifetime was the catalyst to all the events that are now unfolding. I chose to write this memoir because I wanted to provide some more background to the story you thought you already knew, or she thought she already knew. I wanted to take my story out of the sole hands of Hollywood and tip the scale a bit more evenly with my personal lived experience. I also write it as part of my legacy, and now I will have two, my past story of being a daughter and my future story of being a mother. It will be a challenge to have difficult conversations with my child about what transpired before we became our own family. But shame is not a burden to me now. I know when the time comes for questions, I will give my child truthful answers, beginning with this book. There were only lies between my mother and me. Now I only give truth to give. Now I only have truth to give. But you're still lying. To my unborn baby, when you are one day ready to read your mama's story and learn of your ancestry, I want you to know that every choice that I have made in life, whether it be wrong or right, has been with the hope of having you. And there we go too, is like you literally just told on yourself that the whole time you're trying to get pregnant. This epilogue is probably the best of this whole book because it says a lot of truths that aren't true. And it says a lot of things that she's contradicted herself on. But that's it, guys. And in the resources, if you guys want to know resources, she has Munchausen Support, RAIN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, which I'm sure she's been in contact with them because of her issues with her dad. And then of course we have about the authors at the end. She didn't like dedicate this book to anyone, did she? I don't remember reading in the beginning, did she? Oh, for Munchausen syndrome. So that's it, guys. C'est la vie. That was Gypsy Rose Blanchards' My Time to Stand. Again, if you guys want to catch up or read the whole book, I will have this live posted on my YouTube channel before the end of today. So check it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I have all of the chapters up now, so I hope you guys enjoyed. But I don't know, I feel like without Lifetime she would have been so much better. Without Melissa Moore, I think things would have transpired differently. I think if it was somebody that was going to hold her accountable and not just kind of make money off of her, that was going to be a thing. It was my pleasure. I'm excited to move on to the next book. Again, with this being done on this platform, we're going to do a live after this. So I'm going to get off and I'm going to come back on. And we're going to talk about like her having baby Aurora and stuff like that. After that, we're just going to put it to bed. Tomorrow, Friday, we're going to have a live panel about the book. Not about other situations, just about the book. So if you guys want to join that, you most definitely can. So if you guys want to join me, we're going to be talking about the pregnancy and about all of the stuff that's happening currently here today. Tomorrow is the live panel for the book. So if you guys are interested in joining that, let me know. Shoot me a DM.